Hello and welcome to Scarborough Theatre Guild's Let's Talk series. I'm your host Erin, and I'm really excited today because we have a very special guest. She has been a professor, a psychotherapist, a writer of stage plays, and she's best known as the author of the Detective Murdoch series, which was turned into the Murdoch Mysteries TV series, which she is a screenwriter for on the show, which is in its 14th season. So, please let me introduce Maureen Jennings.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you for coming. I'm so excited.
It's lovely. I was very happy to be asked.
So there's so many things I could ask you. I guess starting off with your journey. How, with such a varied career, how did you become a playwright?
Well, I think it's always been there, forever and ever. I've always loved the theater. I sort of messed around with writing for a long time. And then at some point I said, wait a minute, if I'm ever going to do this, I've got to do it. Otherwise I'd be, put on my tombstone. She didn't do what she really wanted to do. Fortunately, I have a very good friend who's an actor. And one day he said to me, he was working at that time for a production company called Solar Stage. And he said, they are looking for plays. You love plays. They'd like a mystery play because they draw in a crowd. You like mysteries. Why don't you write a play? I was like, okay. It's like saying, why don't you grow a couple of inches? But I did, and one of the very unusual things about that theater was that they called it lunchtime theater, and they did every play as episodic. So 1 week, episode 1, right to 4 episodes. And so what they needed, of course, was enough of a hook that people would come the next week. And that was a very valuable learning experience for anything, certainly for writing mysteries. And keep it short. So I did. And that was called, the first one was called, The Black Ace. I mean, all of my titles sound a bit morbid, but that was The Black Ace. And I thought at the time it would be easier to write something set in Victorian times because they didn't have any forensics, which was sort of true. So I got into that, and it was really thrilling. It was so thrilling to be in an audience. I never experienced that before, to be sitting among the audience and seeing the play brought to life. And I often say I was laughing hilariously at my own jokes, which sounds like, what? But they sounded different when they were being said. And so that was great. I did 2 plays for them, and I decided I felt launched as a writer, and playwriting's not a great secure career, as we know. So I thought, okay, I've got all this material, I'll write a novel. And so I started with that, and that was the very first novel of Murdoch, called Except the Dying. And I eventually wrote 7 of those, and I think it was about number 4, where we were very lucky that Shaftesbury Films, thanks to my husband actually, took down a book, and they picked it up and produced it, and there we are, season 14. So, and each time we go, do you think we'll get renewed? Do you think we'll get renewed? And we did. So that was that particular path, and I feel very fortunate. And that's a very different experience, of course, from a play. Mm-hmm. It's dramatic, but the experience of being on a set is very, very different. But it was also been very exciting. So they're going into actually with great lot of restrictions and precautions, but they're starting to shoot next Tuesday.
Wonderful.
Yeah, well, I know they're going to be really careful, but I'm so glad. It's really been great. So.
Oh, that's terrific news. So I'm hearing in part of the journey, writing plays, writing a novel, and screenwriting. So how have you adapted your style? As you mentioned, there's some things are very different. So how have you adapted as part of that?
It's interesting. It's what I think if I say here's a novel, going from a novel to a screenplay is more different than the other way around. So what I hope I've learned from doing the screenplays is a sharper sense of drama. I get a bit wordy sometimes, you know, I like words. I think the best present I ever had was from my auntie when I was a teenager, and she gave me an etymological dictionary. It was like reading, oh my gosh, it was like reading mysteries all the time. Anyway, so that just been easier to go from a drama, a play or a script to a novel, actually. Because the criticism, they were very nice about it, but the criticism I had going from novel to script was they all talk too much, you know. Make it dramatic, okay, I will. Things that you, as a writer of a novel, I'd be saying, oh, and she felt this and she felt that, and in 2 seconds, an actress, as you know, can look in the mirror and go, and you got it. You've got the whole story right there. So I had to learn that. I had to learn how to trim.
It sounds like a lot of collaboration as well, working with a creative team to finesse and find that right balance.
Yes, and again, much the difference of a TV show from a play. In a play, there's a much more respect given to the writer, and much more, how do you feel about this kind of collaboration, where on a TV show, they're very polite, but they don't care, you know, they say, no, you can't have a rain, I'm sorry, it's too expensive to have rain. Oh. So you have to learn all those sorts of things.
Which makes sense, because you're looking at a lot of different things that can and can't be done budget-wise and set-wise and things like that. Makes sense.
Absolutely, yes.
So I have some more questions around that, but I didn't want to forget to ask you about some of the recognition that you've gotten over the years with your writing. I know you've had numerous nominations, and you've won an award as well. And that was the Grant Allen Award for pioneering in, I think it was crime fiction?
Yes, it was. It was a whole thing that was happening on Wolf Island, which is not happening anymore. But it was really nice. I mean, Grant Allen was an early writer, not very well known, not very good, I'm afraid, but what the heck, you know, he was popular. And so a group of people said, hey, let's make this an award for someone who's popular, I guess. I don't know. Hope it wasn't for being not very good, but whatever. Anyway, I shouldn't say that. No, that was Wolf Island. That was fun.
Excellent. And I think you also developed the concept for Bomb Girls.
I did. Oh, that was fabulous. Well, what happened was I was literally on the set of Murdoch, and you have to be very quiet when you're on set. You have to literally speak. So a woman, her name's Deb Drennan, is a brilliant makeup artist. We knew each other very casually. And she said to me, what are you working on right now? And I was into my second series, which I said in 1942. And I said, I'm working on a book that takes place in a munitions factory. And she didn't shout because we were on a set, but I could tell this was like, whoa. Anyway, it turned out that she had had a grandmother who had worked at a munitions factory in Scarborough. It's gone now, but it was a huge place, and GICO it was called. And she had got all the material, and for years she had been thinking about how to bring this to the public. So anyway, so we said, oh, and we got together and hammered out stories, and that was picked up by Back Alley Films, and they made it into Bomb Girls. And that was fabulous. And why it was fabulous was there were still a few of those women alive. Not many, but there were a few. So we got to interview them. We got to talk to them and ask them about their experiences. And that was fabulous. And, you know, probably we all have little images which we know were carried to the rest of our lives. And one for me was we were in Ottawa and we were screening the film for the first time. And at the end, the young actresses who were in reality as young as the women they were portraying came out, and then I think there were 5 former Bomb Girls, most of them close to 90, and they brought them out too. And oh, it still gets me a bit choked up because everybody stood up and cheered. It was just fabulous. And they were all so modest and unassuming and just fabulous. So that was like shiny bead in the thread of my life. So Bomb Girls was, I wish we could have gone on. There was a bit of confusion about stuff, not from us, and we didn't, but you never know. You might come back. You never know.
And that's a lovely segue into a question I wanted to ask, because a lot of your writing is based in truth, history, experiences, and I think you've told us a little bit about how you approach writing, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you go about researching in order to create a story?
Yes, I call it casting a very wide net, and I just read everything that I can. I'm still with books. I'm able to get a lot of books from AB Books. I go for diaries and memoirs, not very many secondary sources. And I just read and something will go, gong. I go, okay. And try to base a story on that experience. So, and I really love doing that. I want to do that. I recommend doing that. And then it keeps it fresh and real and exciting. So, and you never know. It's like, I know I'm going for a walk in the woods and I'm going to go to the end, but along the way, I don't know what I'm going to encounter. But fortunately, and I do recommend this to everyone who probably had this experience anyway, you're just walking along and something goes, ooh, whatever that is. And that's what you know. Doesn't matter if it seems odd or different or nobody's ever said it before, you just go, for you, something goes, wow.
Like that aha moment.
Yeah. I call it boing, but it's like a boing.
A boing moment.
A boing, boing.
Lovely.
No, it's a aha, boing. Yeah.
Now, I know Scarborough Theatre Guild was introduced to you through some of the plays that you've written for the stage, and I believe 2 of those that were produced here were No Traveller Returns and Death in a Black Suit. Were you able to see those staged?
Oh, yes. Oh, it was absolutely thrilling. It was so good. It was really, really well done. And for me, as the author, it's 2 things. It's seeing the play, which was so well done, but also seeing that an audience liked it. And again, I'll never forget, it wasn't this guild, but it was a play performance. And there's a moment where we see who the villain is. And at that moment, there was a, and I thought, oh, yes, that was wonderful. I really, it was, I was saying when I arrived here, because we did an audition here, I felt like a little dog who was going, woo, I remember this, it was really good. All my senses quivering in pleasure.
You sound much like many actors that have said the same thing when an audience reacts to a key moment.
Yes.
And yes, we got it.
Well, if I say that is the difference between a film set and a play, and I think nobody gasps at a film set because it might be the 20th time they've done it, but that connection with an audience and that relationship is so exciting, and it's tangible, really tangible.
Absolutely. And that makes me think about our present time, where right now we can't do a lot of things that we did before.
Right.
So what are your thoughts around reaching out to audiences in other ways? Some companies are looking at online methods, things like that. What are your thoughts of the short-term future, long-term future of reaching out to audiences and making that connection?
I think that's really tough. I'm probably not a good example because I hate Zoom. I Zoom with my friends, and I want to touch them. I want to reach to the screen and touch them, and of course we can. So it works for some things, but I'll be really glad when we can go back to a live audience, for instance. I hope it won't be too long. Perhaps it won't be if we're careful.
We had a lovely guest who said theater's been around for thousands of years, so it will sustain and it will thrive. So
Well,
I thought it was a very positive thought. So I'm with you. I want to see it make a return.
Well, I keep thinking of Shakespeare, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and how all the theater's closed. It's open, it's closed, it's open, and how they had to do that. That was all they knew to do to contain the plague. So, but what I really hope, and I think will happen is that people, including me, will realize what we've missed. You can go, oh, da, 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 but wait, when it goes, and then you say, wait a minute, I loved that contact. So now that it's back, maybe we'll appreciate it even more.
Makes good sense. Sometimes that old saying of absence makes the heart grow fonder. So,
Yeah.
and speaking of inspiration, have you had any mentors that have inspired you in your writing?
Well, yeah, so many I couldn't even list them all. I suppose, well, in terms of writing, 2, 3, maybe huge love. William Shakespeare. That's why I called Murdoch William. I was lucky to go to I was brought up in England, to a school where we just breathed Shakespeare. I can't imagine it happening now, and it wasn't being all prissy or anything, but we'd swap quotes. I remember we'd get on the bus and we'd swap quotes because it was fun. So the feeling wasn't that, oh, Shakespeare's so difficult and remote. It felt it was alive, and what he had to say was valid and important. So definitely that. Definitely Conan Doyle. I still remember the first time I read the Sherlock Holmes stories. I remember I was in the library. I hadn't seen him before, and I took it out and just read. But what? There aren't any more. What are going to be more? And then more recently, I think I've been very influenced by John le Carré. I really admire him. So those are my top 3, but I'd say everywhere along the way, I've books, a lot of books, real people, like my friend Eric Wright, who has passed away now, unfortunately, was so helpful to me, because he was writing mysteries. He was so helpful. That kind of thing, where people just say, yeah, okay, try this, try that, try the other. I like that. But certainly the books.
Sounds like a lovely combination of being grounded in literature, but having the collaboration of others that you know and respect to have that creativity.
Yes.
And what advice would you give to aspiring writers or even performers to bring characters to life on stage?
Well, I think that for performers, this is very much part of the training, is to do the backstory. And I have a very funny story about that. Okay, so we're sitting, this is in Solar State, this is the first play. I'm sorry, it's the second play. And we're sitting around, and I'm very new to this game. And then in my script, I just said, exit Kip. So I said, because I knew there were too many people on stage. That was very simple. So we're sitting around, and this lovely actor says, well, where did I go? I said, what do you mean, where did you go? You got off the stage? No, did I go to the woods? And he was really, and he was right. As an actor, you can't say, well, I'm leaving, you know, like in real life, you'd go to the bathroom, or you'd go to the bus, or you'd go home. And I was very aware of all of the actors were trying to capture that. Now, it didn't particularly come into the script or the text, but for him, he knew where he'd gone. So when he comes back, I laugh because it was funny at the moment, but it was affected everything I've ever done since, you know. So if writing a novel and Murdoch has to go from the station to somewhere, and I say it's 20 minutes, I need to know, is it really 20 minutes? So I do a lot of walking around. I say I walk the streets, become a streetwalker, and just say, okay, time it from there to there. How long does it take? If he's in a horse and carriage, I get on my bike. How long does it take? So I like doing that, and it feels fair. It feels like make it as real as possible. Now, I haven't killed anybody yet, so I can't say I'm taking it that far. But I learned such a lot from actors and performers. I again go back to Shakespeare, you know, in Hamlet, when all the actors come and he's so thrilled. I love that scene when he talks about they are the very chroniclers of the time. Shakespeare's sense of respect and admiration for these people. I have such respect for actors and performers.
I keep hearing a lovely theme of collaboration, mutual respect, and constant learning,
Yes.
and experiential research to a point.
Right. To a point, right.
So do you have any projects that are currently underway, or projects that were going on just prior to the shutdown?
Well, fortunately, most of my work is at home. So the only thing that didn't happen, which I was looking forward to, I have another play called Dying Like This. It's not a mystery, and we were all set to have a reading at Factory Lab, and I'm sorry about that. I hope we'll go back to it. But everything else is writing at home. So I just kept going. What I have on the go, I have a book that's finished and with my publisher called Cold Snap. That's my new series about PI. So that's not affected. And now I'm working on a project for TV called The Long Carry, and it's about World War I. I'm trying to trace the wounded through 6 stages till they are sent to safety or they die. So, and that hasn't been affected either, because I'm at the stage where I'm doing all my research right now. I'm putting it together, so I'm lucky actually. Nothing has been dramatically stopped for me personally. So as I say, I'm at home. My routine hasn't changed that much, but I'll be glad to, especially The Long Carry, to see what happens to that. And I'm working on another novel. So that's I supposedly do 3 novels with this PI, and the third one, I'm following the weather theme, is called Cold Snap. So by the time I get there, it'll be December. Experiential learning is
exactly. And any plans for future stage plays?
Not to write them. I sure would like the 2 I already have to be staged. I'd really like that, but I don't know. what's going to happen. I guess nobody does really at the moment. Deb and she approached me and said she's very musical, and so would I like to work on Bomb Girls as a musical?
Ooh.
And so that's what it's pretty well ready to go, but don't know when that will be.
Wow, it sounds like multiple projects,
Yes,
all in various
yes.
stages.
Oh, that one could be fabulous if it happens.
And it sounds like you've got a lot of wonderful things in play. Is there anything else that you're doing right now to stay active and positive in this very surreal time that we're in?
Well, as I say, I'm lucky that my life hasn't changed that much. So I'm trying to focus on that, and just whenever possible encourage people to keep doing what they love doing, however limited that might be, because I really believe if we can swim in the creative stream, we're going to be happy. So even if it's limited and difficult and challenging, at least you're there and you can share. And that, to me, that's been a positive thing, actually, that there's so much creative response to the limitations. I think that's fabulous.
Absolutely. And you said something I want us to leave on that note. If we can swim in the creative stream, we can be happy. That is very profound, and I'm going to take that because I think that's just a wonderful, inspirational way to kind of live. So I hope everyone else will take that and learn from it, because it's a wonderfully inspiring way to move forward. So Maureen, thank you for joining us. And I've learned some really interesting and tidbits that I'd never known before. In fact, where William Shakespeare's inspiration came in for Murdoch Mysteries. So,
yeah.
So now we know
Oh,
some
gosh.
interesting little behind the scenes bits. So thank you so much for joining us,
Lovely.
and I hope that we will have an opportunity to work with you again, whether it's through musicals, through mysteries, dramas, what have you, because there's a whole contingent of theater groups in Scarborough here that
all right.
love and will always be willing to work with you. So
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
A musical would be great.
I think so, absolutely. So thanks again for joining us, and tune in again to see who our next guest will be. And if you're interested in more information on the three groups that comprise Theatre Scarborough, please go to www.theatrescarborough.com.